Good morning, everyone. This is Julie McDonald with Microcom Technologies, and I'd like to thank all of you for attending today's webinar with Cambium Networks. Today's hosts are Christy Meany. She is the manager of channel development and field marketing, as well as another host today, Holly Davis. She's and CEO of Inc. Both of them will be presenting today, and thank you very much for being here. Christy, Holly, thank you so much for taking the time and being with us this morning. I am finished for now. You can go ahead and take it on over.
Perfect. Thank you, Julie. Yes, this is Christy Meany. I do manage the field marketing and channel development. And as we were talking about doing another presentation with Julie and Microcom and team, we thought, hey, let's do something a little different. Let's go over E-rate. And one of the things Cambium loves about Microcom is they're all about bringing knowledge to the community. So we're bringing along Holly Davis. She's a specialist in E-rate. She's also the CEO of Complement. Holly, would you mind giving everyone on the call a glimpse into your background so they can understand your passion for E-rate, so they can kind of understand where you come from, and then what are the things that you're doing today for Cambium?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you. I appreciate both of y'all and for the introduction, and really excited to be on this call with y'all today. So my background is having 20 years of experience in the E-rate program. I started with the program back in the 90s when it got started in 1998 in the first funding year. And I have then proceeded to continue being with the program since. And I've gotten to the opportunity to work with multiple different manufacturers, being inside of a manufacturer, really working to help design and build a purpose-built E-rate solution inside those organizations. The likes of where I've been have been like Nextel, Sprint. I actually was a lobbyist for Oracle for a little while, and in Washington, D.C. And then also I went on to run the E-rate program and government programs with ShoreTel, as well as then Ruckus Wireless. I ran their public sector globally. But what is so great about the opportunity I have to work with Cambium Networks is they provide a really unique solution that fits really well into the E-rate program, because they offer point-to-point microwave and some other solutions that perspective that fall, whereas they also have indoor wireless, which falls under category 2. So they're a really great player and an awesome solution because of multitudes of different reasons. So I know we're not going to really go into that today, Christy, a deep dive on all of the Cambium Network solutions, but I just want everybody to be aware how unique y'all's solution is and why it's a lot of fun and that I get to work with y'all on y'all's E-rate program.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
So, you know, Christy, I thought before we really go into some of the questions that I think you have that you've already been able to gather from some of your partners and some of the applicants that you talked to, I thought I should maybe give everybody a glance of what we're looking at for E-rate 2019. And if you weren't familiar or aware with the E-rate program, we are already into E-rate 2019. And why am I saying a forward year when I talk about that? It's more specifically because it's the year that the actual funding can be received. So there's a lot that goes into the process of the E-rate program in advance of actual funding being given to an applicant. And one thing I want to cover today too is the applicant, because I'm going to say that word quite a few times today because that is the nomenclature that is used inside of the E-rate program. The applicant refers to the school or library or the educational institution that actually can receive E-rate funding. So this is really important to understand, excuse me, really important to understand that there are a multitude of different various types of organizations that actually receive funding. We're talking about parochial schools that you don't think about and charter schools as well. So, and I get a lot of questions about those. So one of the things I'm just going to really give you just a high level about E-rate that's very important is that they allocate and they, as in USAC, who manages the E-rate program for the government, they allocate a specific set dollar amount to the program every year. And that is to cover the connectivity and the technology that's in the classroom. And it's the technology that supports that e-learning environment. And the program was really created to provide equal learning opportunity across the board, across all of the United States and Puerto Rico and Guam. So thinking about that, you probably wonder, well, how much money is in that program? Well, you can see here, there's 5.1 billion that has now been designated that's going to be in the program this year. That's important for you to understand, because every applicant that applied last year and the previous year since 2014 has been funded for whatever they have asked for, as long as it fell into the eligible requirements of the program. Another thing that I just wanted to let y'all know, it's really interesting about the program that there is so many schools and libraries that are still not connected at the level in which the government would really like to get everyone to achieve. And a lot of times people don't know this, but we're ranked in the United States 21st in connectedness in a classroom. So the Erate program is designed and has additional funding now to help make sure that infrastructure gets built out in our schools, and we have a long way to go. But getting with a really good vendor and knowing who you're working with, that they know the program, is really key and important, which is great why Cambium invests in making sure that they have not only a consultant from my team, but also they invest in the education of everybody they work with to ensure that they understand the program as well. So, Christy, I understand you had a few questions for me that you thought might help everyone that are relevant to the program.
Yes, and I just want to back up first and ask, what does an applicant, a school, library, what do you need to get started with the program?
Yes, I get asked that question all the time, and a lot of times I hear, oh, the program's so overwhelming, there's so much you have to do to get started. And it's really not that complicated to get started. As an applicant, you have to go into the USAC website, which of course we can provide you with all these resources as a follow-up item to this webinar. But you go and you register and log on to, they have a portal now that manages everything to make it easy. And they call it the EPC portal. So as a part of registering with USAC, and your organization already has a designation of funding if you are an applicant, because of the way that the program works. So going and logging on and registering under the EPC program, the administrator for the school or the library, the applicant, very easily can start managing their system, their inside that system in the portal, to be able to accomplish everything they need to do, anything they need to file, anywhere they need to trace on where their funding is. Everything can be done inside of EPC, and it literally would only take you a very short time to sign up as the administrator.
Nice. What technologies, though, are eligible to receive funding under E-rate?
Yes. So the basic connectivity that you think of as an IT administrator is what is funded. So if you're thinking about that service and the pipe, the fiber, the bandwidth, all of that has to come into the classroom, the connectivity in a rural community. So you're even looking at like where microwave, even satellites. There's a lot of things that you can get funding for as under Category 1. Under Category 2, you can get more of the infrastructure things, like you think about a wireless access point. Those are covered. The switches, everything that you need to make that wireless network work, and really to accomplish your networking goals, and thinking about what that e-learning classroom has to have to really be able to have that kind of end user experience. And one thing I want to caution, Christy, that's very important for everybody to know in this call, is that every year the FCC provides, the designated funding, but they also provide guidelines to USAC on those eligible services. So around this time every year, the USAC comes out with what they call the eligible services list. You'll hear the acronym that's called ESL. And a lot of times they put a draft out at this time and not the final one. So we still are in a stage right now of the draft, and we are anticipating that any day now, the government will come out and say, here is the fixed eligible services list moving into 2019. And it's important for everybody to know that, because some very significant changes happen every year, because USAC listens to what the schools and libraries need, and they take that in consideration on what they're going to fund. But it is, just keep in mind, Christy, the basic connectivity. So a lot of the bells and whistles you would think about that would be extras or add-on applications, sometimes those aren't covered. And so you need to be very familiar with the eligible services list.
Okay. So how would an applicant find out how much funding is available to them or the percentage of the discount they're eligible for?
Yes, that's important, right? You got to know how much money you have to work with, especially when you're evaluating and trying to determine who your vendor is going to be and when you put the bid out in requesting for services. One thing to know that the government has done that I'm very excited about, and you probably can tell with my passion and my expression in my speaking today, is the government is really trying to make this program easier and better for everyone that wants to participate. And what they've done is they have created what they're calling open data, which we hear a lot about in government, but they did create a site that's data.usac.org, and it is a site where you as an applicant can go in there and see all of the funding that you have available, even before you go and set up your account inside of EPC. Now, once you set up your account inside of EPC, your funding level are automatically updated. So it's important to know that once you get to establish, you can do that. But if you really just wanted a quick glance, it's really kind of cool to go look at the open data that the government has put out there for everyone.
And partners could look to see, so if I am ABC Wireless and I work with 10 ISDs, I can go and see how much my school has available, correct?
Absolutely, yes. And that's the great thing about the government doing an open data platform, because now everybody has access to that funding. In fact, you can get historical data, Christy, that shows what schools have bought in the past, where they are in their technology refresh, which we'll talk about here in a minute, but helping everyone know exactly what's been purchased, how much money they have left, and also when they're going to be able to actually refresh their networks. And in fact, 51% of school districts that started with the program back in 2014, when they revamped the program and revitalized it with more money, 51% of school districts are going to be eligible for purchasing new wireless infrastructure starting in 2019 and then 2020. So that's a huge turnover of that technology that we're going to see from a budget perspective of funding that will be available.
So what is the timeline for filing with the program this year?
Yes. So important to make sure you don't miss deadlines, right? And whether you are a partner or you're an applicant, it's going to be very key for you to be very cognizant of where we are inside of that timeline. There are some parts of the timeline for the E-rate program that are constant, that you can count on every single year. So the program runs from July 1 as the start date for the next year and ends, of course, at the end of June. So if you think about that, there's a lot of things that happen within that year to make this program possible. So around the November, January timeframe, you will actually have the government will come out and actually post when they're going to allow 471s to be bid on. Now, what does that mean? That means the bidding process for putting out a 470, which is the form where you request services or you're putting a bid out there and you want partners, vendors to respond to what solution you're looking to implement. When that happens, and once they post that 470, they're allowed to post that 470 all the way up through to probably end of February, early March, all dependent upon when the government says they will open a window for you to select your vendor off of that 470. So that is when then a 471 is filed. So the 471 is the one that is in part of the timeline where you're picking and selecting your vendor, and then at that point, you're going to try and move forward in requesting the funding.
Gotcha. So are there any gotchas or need to knows that an applicant should be aware of when filing the 470 bid?
There is a really big gotcha that I want everyone in this webinar to really pay attention to. Is the 470, since it Oh, I got a little echo. So the 470 actually, what's so great about it is it is you putting an RFP on the street, which means that no one is able to really help or assist with the 470. Like, you can't have a partner who has been working with an applicant. They are not able to write the RFP for the school or the library. It has to be a fair and competitively bid when it hits the street. So super important for everyone to remember that they cannot help write the RFP. Of course, you do have an opportunity to go and actually demo, evaluate, and talk to school districts in advance.
But can an applicant evaluate multiple vendors, though, to assist with the decision-making process?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And you know what, Christy, there's something that I wanted everyone to know that's just happened and came out. It was released by the program this year, and it happened just a few days ago. So USAC actually came out with an actual ruling or guidance that they wanted to provide on demonstrations and evaluation. So the new rule for this year in 2019 is that a school district or a library, the applicant, is allowed to evaluate or do a demo of equipment prior to filing their 470. So that's really important, because I want everyone on the call to understand getting ahead of a 470 and really doing the due diligence to really understand and evaluate the solution is important. But even more so as a partner, starting the conversation early with the school district will be very helpful.
So from your perspective, though, what are some things an end user should take into consideration when looking for a solution to ensure scalability with all the technology changes in the K through 12 classroom?
Yeah, that's important, because one of the things that happens in a school environment and trying to really make sure that they meet the technology solutions, they need to be thinking about meeting the technology solutions of the students. And really something that is very hard to predict, because if you think about how quickly technology evolves and changes, how are you supposed to know what you're going to need in 18 months from now if some new technology comes out that could be very impactful to that e-learning experience? So knowing that you're talking to a vendor who has very good future-proof network solutions, but also having a scalable type solution. So even thinking about what y'all offer, Christy, the ability for you to be able to take care of rural communities, even like from a point-to-point or a microwave perspective, but then also take care of the indoor. There's a lot of different ways that you can help some of the rural communities and even some of the inner city communities that really need some assistance and help, because they don't have a solution that could scale like that. But being able to also know that the company and the organizations that you work with are going to help you move into the future and are really thinking about future solutions and how they're going to be prepared.
So how can an applicant ensure, though, their funding is received in time, just to make sure that everything's on schedule for the deployment?
Yeah, so when you are in a process or you're in that timeline like we were talking about, where the 471 filing window is open, what is really important is they literally take the program or handle the program with first in, first out. So that means you go to the top of the stack because you filed early with your 471. So what that means is a school district, for example, files a 470, puts out there the solutions that they need, and then at that point, they select a vendor. They then work with that vendor, which in your case would be like a partner. They would work with that vendor to ensure that they file the 471 correctly, because you are at that point allowed to work with the school once you have been awarded. You work with them to file it, but then not procrastinating and filing early ensures you get your decision or your funding decision letter issued to you first. So the later you wait to file your 471, the later it's going to be into the summer before you're even going to get your funding. Now, I will tell you, USAC has gotten much better in getting those funding commitment letters turned around quickly because they truly understand the importance of getting the funding completed or, award completed so that the installations can take place typically when the children are not in the classroom. So those are some things for definite consideration is be really ahead of the game and filing all of your forms and doing your evaluations and really managing your process early so that you can be sure that your implementation of your solution takes place on time and does not affect any of the classroom time when students and teachers are actually in the classroom.
But does an applicant have to wait to receive funding to commence with the deployment of their solution, though?
No, they do not. So there are some things to remember about that. So if you are a school that wants to ensure that you can on June 1st go ahead as soon as the students are out of the classroom and get started on your implementation of the new infrastructure, then you would need to either pay for the solution out of your pocket and wait to be refunded by the government. Now, the reason that they allow this is because there's two different types of invoicing. Invoicing where you would have the solution provider get paid directly by the government, or you get paid directly through disbursement from the government. And we're not going to talk about all that invoicing process today, which we can do that on another time and date. But it's important to know if you have the ability to pay in advance and then wait to get reimbursed, you are allowed to do that. You just have to remember being sure all of the items that you request funding for, they have to be 100% eligible or the percentage of eligibility that you are expecting, because your budget could be slightly thrown off if for some reason USAC did not award you the funding commitment based on eligibility of the items that you requested.
So Holly, I work with you and I have about 5 new questions. Are there any resources to help guide end users and partners and distributors just through the entire E-rate process and what the next steps are?
Yes. So next steps are key. So really educating yourself on the program and really knowing what the timelines are, and also registering with usac.org. It's important to be involved. I'm sorry? So, and registering with them because you will get regular updates that will come to your email box every week. USAC sends out new guidelines, instructions every single week.
Yes.
The other thing too, Christy, is that getting with your vendors, your partners, the distribution, everyone that you work with that can help you get as much education as possible, but really understanding your plan, evaluating the solutions, getting logged in and registered for EPC, because whether you're a partner or you're an applicant, you both have to be registered EPC to manage your account and any of the business transactions for these solutions that would take place. And then, you know what, reaching out to you guys at Cambium would be really helpful because you have a whole team in place, Christy, that is aware and really understands the E-rate program and works directly with me. So, those are great. But one other thing that I could give as a really good helpful tip would be that a school district that is not working with an E-rate consultant, I would highly recommend that they locate and find one. As you know, I have a list of all the E-rate consultants. They're actually on open data with USAC as well. And there are some really great ones out there that everybody can get involved with. Of course, my team, we do not consult for schools and libraries. We work with the manufacturers, but we would be more than happy to give everybody a list of any of the consultants that are in their area to help guide them and help them file their paperwork.
Well, that's all the questions I have. Thank you, Holly. we really appreciate you coming on and answering these and just being a valuable resource to Cambium and Microcom. Julie, do we have any questions in the chat box for Holly?
Yes, as a matter of fact, thank you, Holly and Christy, very much for that presentation and that overview and the information on your program. I do have some questions. Let me start here with the first one. Does the E-rate funding program have a value in regards to training and education on using the actual equipment?
A value. Well, I'm going to try and take a stab at that one because I'm not 100% clear on what the question is, so I do apologize. So there, you are allowed as part of the new rules of the program, you can actually provide an evaluation in advance. If you're talking about if they pay for the trainings or for the installation, that is funded through the program. So hopefully I did a two-part answer to that to make sure I covered that question.
Perfect. That's exactly what we were looking for. Thank you so much. And I have another question here for you. And you did talk about the application. So is the application of the E-rate program the responsibility on us, the distributor or reseller, or is it the responsibility of the charter or private school?
So it's any of the schools and libraries that are eligible for funding, it is upon them to file their 470. Remember, they have to file that 470 independently because it has to be fair and competitive bidding. But once they have chosen and selected a vendor after they have completed the bidding process and abiding by the rules and guidelines of the USAC program, then they can work with the 471 to make sure it's 100% accurate in what that solution is going to entail that was based upon the 470 that they filed. So that at that point, then they can all work together.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Can you provide us a link for the USAC website and or the EPC portal?
Absolutely. In fact, once you go to usac.org, the great thing about there is where you can sign up for the registration so that you can get notifications on a daily, weekly basis as they issue them. But you also will see on the top right corner, it'll say register or log into your EPC account. And then you're able to easily go into that, and it'll allow you at that point to set up your registration. But yes, we can provide that for y'all as well as a follow-up.
Thank you very much. Next question here. The links and the wireless connections and all of that to do with where Cambium may be involved, is all of that in reference to the Wi-Fi, will it be covered in the E-rate program?
Yes, and that's the wonderful part of the connectivity through anything wireless. That is 100% covered through the program.
Thank you very much. Next question here. Are there specific installers, contractors that you have to go through for the E-rate program, or can any company work on projects with the funds?
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to repeat that question.
No worries, I can do that. Are there specific installers and or contractors that one has to go through for the program, or can any company work on these projects with those qualified funds?
Yes, so anyone that is a vendor of the network solutions provider, they can participate in the program. They too need to go to usac.org, set up their own account inside of EPC, which will also require that they get what they call a service provider identifier number. In the past, everybody knew this as a 470. They knew it as a SPIN number, and I think that's kind of everybody's stuck and everybody stays with it. But what you do is you set up your account, and once you set up your account as a vendor that provides the solutions to the schools, you then would just have your SPIN number, which gives you that ability to work with all of the schools and libraries.
Great. Thank you for that. Next question here. Can I find out what funding is available for specific applicants before they do, or does the applicant find out the funds they have available?
Well, that's actually a funny question, or not a funny question, but I'm going to give you a funny response. And I kind of laugh at it because sometimes I have actually talked to applicants for schools and libraries, and they don't even know what their funding dollar amount is, which is okay. And it's funny because sometimes someone who's providing the services, that partner or the vendor, they already know because they are aware of that data that's out there. So yes, you could have instances where the school or the applicant may not know how much funding they have. And so it's really good for everyone to really know their budget, know exactly how much funding that they're going to get, and know what percentage of discounts that they will receive.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Next question here. Is there a list of school districts that we could have access to reach out to?
Absolutely. So one of the services that I provide at Complement for Cambium Networks is I give Christy a list of all of the schools, their eligibility amounts, and also how much funding that they have available. So Christy and her team, and of course you guys, are a great resource and a contact for anyone that wants to get access to that list.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Next question. Is there a limit of participants?
Nope, there is no limit. If you registered and you have your SPIN number as the vendor, and if you are in EPC and registered as the school or library, and you have eligible funding that's been provided through the program, which of course you can check on the portal for that, then you can participate, and there is no limitation.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Last question here. If we here at Microcom have any further questions, can we reach out to either of you, Christy or Holly?
I am okay with that, but I think I prefer if everybody kind of goes to Christy. So how do you feel about that, Christy?
Yeah. Feel free to call me anytime. We have a team at Cambium to help with if it's E-Raid, if it's an RFP, just come to me and I'll direct you to the right person, because we'll work with Microcom directly to fulfill your RFP, work with Holly if you have certain questions. But part of working with Holly is she has a team behind her as well, and each of them are a designated resource for pulling that data. So if you say, hey, my footprint is in Oklahoma, I want to know everyone that's eligible to Oklahoma, we have someone that's designated just to pull that data that understands it.
Excellent. That makes sense since we are Cambium distributors. So thank you. Holly, Christy, thank you so much for answering those questions for us. And thank you to everyone attending today. And again, if anyone has any further questions for us, feel free to contact your sales rep, Technologies, at sales@microcomtech.com. And if you wish to view any of the information or any materials shown here today, please visit us at www.microcom.us. And please remember, this webinar presentation has been recorded and it will be uploaded to our Microcom YouTube channel so you can view it again. Thank you again, everybody. Have a wonderful day. And again, thank you to Christy and Holly for your wonderful presentation. We enjoyed it very much.
Thank you, Julie. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.